Okay, I think we can start the class, and I assume that more people will join while we start, while we are on the masterclass. So first of all, Lise, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you also, Florian, for your efforts in making this possible and your support. I will start with well, first, good afternoon, everyone. This is I'm very welcome to the 11th Women for Cyber Masterclass. Before starting with today's guest, a small introduction on our side. My name is Saskia Blukman, and I am here today with my colleagues Nina Olesen and Sofia Badari. And together with our SecGen Luigi Rebuffi, we are the operational team behind the Women for Cyber Foundation. And now just a few things on Women for Cyber for anyone new, for the new faces that I see. Very briefly, Women for Cyber was launched as an initiative by EXO in order to fill the gap of cybersecurity professionals in Europe by boosting the participation of girls and women in cybersecurity professions. Through our activities, we encourage the skilling, upskilling, and reskilling of both junior and senior professionals. So we try to target all the different areas of cybersecurity. And to achieve these goals, we cover a wide range of activities, going from community building, awareness raising, encouraging in-company training courses, and also reaching to the European and national political level. We have an all-inclusive approach that you can see. It is reflected in our work with men and women from the different sector, public, private, and academia. So the Women Foundation is the entity that supports our activities and is composed by an administration body that is the decision-making body, and also by the Women for Cyber Council, which is an ad hoc advisory body that provides strategic recommendations to the decision-making body. And this leads me to introduce you to Lise Fuhr, who is a member of the Women for Cyber Council. Lise, in her day job, is the Director General of ETNO, which is the European Telecommunication Network Operators Association. And parts of their mission is to inform the European institutions about views and matters of telco operators related to cybersecurity. Apart from that, Lise has over 20 years of experience, working with the Danish Ministry, Telia, and she was also COO of Digi Hostmaster and DFDFO. And also on behalf of the association, she's also a board member and administrative committee member in EXO, the European Cybersecurity Organization, from which Women for Cyber emanated as an initiative. Also, on top of all this, Lise is also a strong advocate for gender inclusion in cybersecurity, as you can tell by her involvement in Women for Cyber and her presence here today with us. And so today, Lise will explain the difference between 4G and 5G. She will also use some study cases to illustrate how 5G will change our society. The masterclass will include a quiz, so pay attention, because there will be some questions to see what is it that you know, or if you're listening. And she will also analyze the challenges that 5G presents in terms of security. So a lot to learn today. Before giving you the floor, Lise, a few rules for everyone. Please make sure that you're muted to avoid any background news. Lise would like, if you have any questions, feel free to use the raise your hand button at any time, and Lise will indicate when you can ask your question. Apart from that, there will be a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, you can either ask in the moment, or you can save them for the end, or you can also use the chat to ask your questions. So now, with any further ado, I hope you all have a great time today, and the floor is yours, Lise.
Thank you, Saskia, and thank you for inviting me to this Women for Cyber Masterclass. As you were saying, it's one of the initiatives of EXO that lies extremely close to my heart, because I think it's important we promote as many women as possible also into cybersecurity. I think cybersecurity is something that's growing in importance, and to me, being technology geek myself, I really like to be able to pass on some knowledge. And also 5G is close to my heart. So what better than to have a masterclass on 5G and cybersecurity? I'm of course extremely happy to be one of the founding members of Women for Cyber, and I think this initiative is extremely important for all of us. Just a few words about ETNO before we start, because we are the European Telecommunication Association in Brussels. It's the leading telcos that are members of ETNO, like Deutsche Telekom, British Telecom, Orange, the former incumbents, but today they are challengers all over Europe. But what is more important, they have 70% of the total network infrastructure investment in Europe. So that's also why cybersecurity is extremely important for exactly the members of ETNO. We have seen that our networks, the telecom networks, are of course extremely important in the traditional security activities. We think it's important that we look and combat any cyber or hybrid threats. And one can maybe say that our networks are the very reason to why we have cyber threats. But I also think, of course, digitalization is there. It's there to stay. So we need just to be able to mitigate and work with all the threats and cybersecurity issues that are out there. And of course, this is also why cybersecurity is high on the agenda of all the telcos that I speak to, because we want to ensure the citizens' trust, the industrial trust. Without trust in our networks and into digitalization, I think Europe will actually lag behind. So it's extremely important. For many, many years, telcos have been working with privacy. We have been used to securing that whatever was said on the telephone line was not anyone else's business than between the two parties talking, and the same on text, etc. So we feel that security is a thing we've worked with for many, many years. But if I look at our mission as telcos, it is to build faster and better and smarter networks. And if you look at it, 5G will have a lot of more and smarter and intelligent functions. So to me, 5G is a network that is not an old end-to-end line. It's a softwareized network. And this is why exactly cybersecurity becomes more important for 5G, because while it gives a lot of more opportunities of flexible networks, it also gives a bigger threat because it has many more software APIs where you can access our networks. But I think we have a lot of good things to mitigate these threats. But I would like to start by putting 5G into a context, because I think this is important to understand. What is it we would like to use 5G for, to understand what kind of threats we'll have? And Saskia, you said it in the beginning, we're gonna have a small quiz. So we will start this with a quiz without you knowing the answer, because I'll give you the answer in our next slide. But Florian will ask you the question now. And of course, I can also read it aloud here. So you need to go to Slido, is that it, Florian?
Yes, completely. I sent a link on the chat.
So on the chat, there is a link. And the first question will be, in how many European countries is 5G available? And there are 5 different answers. One is 5, one is 15, one is 30, one is 40, and one is more than 40. Florian, you are surveying the quiz, right? And you
Exactly, and so far there are 8 people to participate to this quiz.
Strange because I don't see it when I get it up on my screen, but let's see.
You need to go to pose and there enter your name and then it's
All right, I will start it since there are 10 people.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, now the question is there. I couldn't see it before, but now I think it should be there for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Indeed, I just hadn't entered my name. That was why. So now it's there.
Okay. I cannot see the quiz because Florian is the master of the quiz. So you also need to tell me how the replies were. You're okay, sharing it. Excellent. So 17% or it's still ongoing. Yes, and as you see from what Florian put in, it's 30 countries. And that's, of course, we're happy to have this higher number. So now let's go to second slide. I see many of you put in 15, and of course, if you are in many countries, you're not necessarily connected to a 5G network. The reason of this is sometimes because you don't have a phone that can have 5G. Sometimes it's also, of course, because they don't have a 5G network. But right now, as we talk, something real is happening with 5G, and it's being created and expanded in all over Europe. And 1 year ago, we saw that it was only available in 18 countries in Europe. Today, it's deployed, as we say, I actually have in my speaking notes 24 countries out of 27, but the news numbers are 30 countries. And but that's because we count all the European countries. And these 5G networks are delivered by 84 operators. So from 1% of all mobile subscriptions in 2020, it will be 55 by 2025. Next slide, please. But if we look at it, what is 5G? Is it just a faster technology? This slide I really like because it shows a bit where we go and what it's used for. 5G is the 5th generation of a mobile technology compared, and it's actually a great leap forward compared to other technologies. 4G is 4th generation, but for me 5G is not only 5th generation, it's more than that. It's a convergence of fixed networks and mobile networks, plus it puts intelligence in the network itself. And this is why we can do a lot of different things and make the network much more flexible. So if we look at it, it has a superior performance, but it's not only about speed and capacity. It's into also ultra low latency, where that translate into 1 millisecond from our network. And if you refer that to the human brain is 13 milliseconds to have a process a thought. So it's so super fast. And why does it need to be so fast? It does if you want to have connected cars. If you want to have cars that can actually react, they need to have speed in a millisecond. Also, you can see on this slide, we will have millions of Internet of Things connected to it. Those Internet of Things are a drone, it's IoT wearables, that's a watch that measures an Apple Watch or a running app, or you can also have an Industry 4.0 or smart home. All of this will be a thing that's connected to 5G. Sorry, I need to have a bit of water. But now actually we have a poll before we go to our next slide. And that's about how many Internet of Things do you have? So Florian, if you connect our precise, how many smart home IoT devices do you have? A smart home device is, for example, if you have a fridge that connected to the internet, you have a smartwatch that's connected to the internet, your TV. Many TVs are actually connected to the internet without people realizing it. Most TVs, for example, if you buy them now, have Netflix incorporated, so you can just go on Netflix or you can go on the internet. So that's a connected, that's a smart device at home. So Florian, you posted the next in the chat.
We actually can have more than 10, depending on the size of the family.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true. Good. Are these the final results, Florian? This is more poll. There's no right or wrong answer to this, but this is also to show you, when I say there are more opportunities for attack, this is an excellent example of how you can see things that are connected to the internet. That's also an access point for attacks. I'm not saying we should be afraid. I'm just saying this is an example of how we can have more attacks because of the internet, because of better connectivity, and 5G is no exceptions from this. Florian, could we have the fourth slide? So if we talk about IoT, I have it as it's physical objects that are embedded with sensors. This picture shows many of the things that are IoT in a house. And of course, 5G will enable these tools because it will make it faster. It will make it easier to access all these Internet of Things. The more things you have, the more data needs to go in and out of a house. And therefore, IoT is one of the reasons why 5G is important. Another key features for us is network slicing. When you have a network as 5G, normally you would say, I have this network and I can deliver a fixed amount of data and etc. to different parts of a city. But we can slice the networks. We can make small parts of the networks dedicated to the different players. So a factory would need ultra low latency. That means it needs to be super fast. So we can deliver to this factory traffic in a super fast way. Or you have a sensor out in the woods That only needs once in a while to send data. It doesn't need to be fast, but it's a lot of data it wants to send. So it needs a lot of bandwidth. So that's a different feature. And with 5G, we can make it much more tailored to the different uses to the different need of the consumer. So if we look at it, we can now, with 5G, enable innovations for hospitals. We can enable for transportation, for agriculture. There are a lot of examples, and we will. I'll describe the use cases for you now. Again, I think it's important we know the use of 5G to understand where does security go with 5G. So next slide, please. If we see the use cases all over Europe, I don't have a new slide, Florian. Yep, now it's coming, but it's not that one, the next one. Okay, I'll talk about the use cases while we find the right slide. I think it's important we keep on going. Exactly that one. Thank you, Florian. So if we look at the test beds that are happening right now in Europe, one is an example in France. We have a robot that keeps the water clean in the different ports. It's called Jellybot. It's a test that Orange are doing with support. And it actually cleans the water where humans cannot come. So it's good for the environment, but it's also good that you don't need to have people going out there. There is a very low latency, so the robot can move very quickly, and so it avoids the collision that it could have with some of the ships in the harbor. So we can clean the water at the same time as you're having ships going in and out, which is extremely good. Plus, it can take very high quality pictures of what's happening. So you can, if something bigger than the robot is needed to clean the harbor, you can do it. Another one that I really like is the ambulance you see, where the ambulance is connected to 5G. That means that the paramedics, when they collect a human that's been hurt or is hurting, they can start performing the analysis of what's wrong with the person. And they can send the pictures to the doctors so the doctors can start helping treating the patient in the ambulance. So you don't lose important time. And the high definition camera will transmit from the ambulance and again, connect the patient with the doctor while they're driving. So this is extremely important in most cases and save a lot of lives. In Spain, we have big ships are being assembled digitally before you actually put them together physically. And that saves both a lot of wrong doing, because it's easier you collect them virtually, you see what's working and what's not. Plus also it avoids a lot of human injuries because it's difficult to build big ships, and the more you work on them, the more there is a risk to have people injured during the work. So we have seen this is also a great success. Last use case very quickly is in the Netherlands. We have big arenas for sports, for concerts, where you can download an app that helps you drive the fastest way, and you'll say Google can do this right now, but with 5G you will have the right, you will be able to measure it more precise because it's on the traffic lights, it's on the traffic amounts. It is embedded in the traffic system itself. So it directs you to the easiest and best way to the venue. And at the same time, during the sports event, you'll be able to broadcast live, and even though you might be 20,000, 40,000 people at the same venue. That's a problem with 4G and 3G because of the capacity. With 5G, you will have much easier use. So now I have another quiz, is that right, Florian? Quiz number
Yes, completely.
4, yeah. And that quiz, because now before we go into the cybersecurity itself, I would like to talk about another form of security, and that's the understanding from public of what 5G is and what's the use, and I'm also going to talk a little later about misinformation and disinformation. So, but this is what's the public understanding of 5G. So my question is, if you put it in there, excellent, thank you, Florian. What's the percentage of European who think the rollout of 5G is important to be ready for the future? Is it 40%? Is it 53? Is it 84 or 92? So how important do people think 5G is for the future? Do we get some answers, Florian?
Oh yeah, I was just waiting that there was like 15 people who took part to it, because if I go on the other page, you will see the answer. So
Okay. No worries. It's fine. Let's yeah, the answer is as high as 84%. We did a survey, and I think it's important when you talk about 5G, you also need to know what people are thinking of 5G. Because if you just have technology, but no one likes the technology or think it's worth using, it's for no use. So 5G is not only for the sake of 5G. I think 5G should be there because it can do amazing things for industry, for citizens, for cities, for a society as a whole. So ETNO and Ipsos did a study where we asked about the awareness and also attitude of 5G of the EU citizens. And if we look at this, there are some good news. A lot of them think 5G will be important for business and development of innovations. That's the 84% we talked about. But on the flip side, if we look at it, we also see that Europeans are less convinced about the importance for their own daily lives. And they like the high speed, they like the high capacity, but they already now think 4G is enough. But this is again, I don't think 5G is only an incremental boost to your internet subscription. It's much more. It's a transformational platform for many other businesses and governments to do some of the things we already discussed. So one last point that I find is interesting is that our survey found that all Europeans have, most Europeans have heard about 5G. Most have seen it and also kind of have a hint of what it is. But if you ask if they have a good understanding, only 1 out of 4 understand 5G as such. So that's also why I think it's extremely important we discuss this during this class. Then if we want to be successful with 5G, we need to have information and also awareness about what we can use 5G for. Next slide, please.
Lise, I see that
Yeah.
there are a couple. There's a question in the chat, and I'm also curious about it.
Yes.
I don't know if Georgia, if you would like to ask the question directly, or I can read it. So Georgia asked if you know what is the percentage of those who don't feel that that 5G is important for personal use.
Yeah, I actually I don't know the exact number. It's just that we were, I think it's lower than 50, but maybe while we discuss this, Florian, you can look it up in our study, because how many were not convinced that it would change their personal life? Because it is interesting. People were thinking of it as an innovative thing, but not anything that would change their life. And to me, it's right. Getting faster videos on your phone, getting faster internet is not necessarily what is changing your private life. But for me, it would change my private life if it actually make the traffic management much better. If I got hurt, I got into an ambulance, I could, be treated right in the ambulance because of 5G. That would make a difference.
Yeah.
Also, a thing that's for my age, I'm a lady past 50, and mammography is very important. In Sweden, they had a truck there where they could bring it out to the smaller cities so people could have their mammographic screening done in their hometown. And that made the percentage of women who accepted this screening, I think it doubled the amount, because people in the northern part of Sweden, they have to travel 300 or 400 kilometers to go to a hospital. But if the truck came out to them, it was different. So again, it's not about what comes to your phone, but it's how it transforms your life and make it easier and more helpful for your health. Because also, if you look at the industry, a factory that's working with 5G is not as relevant for the person as I think the health things are. But we'll still find the numbers. So
Lisa, I can help you here on the numbers. So I looked them up, and those that say that it is not important for their day-to-day life is 26%. And those that say that is not important at all, it's 13%. So altogether, on the non-important at all or not important to a big extent, it's 39%.
yeah.
I will put the link of the study in the chat so that we can explore a bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And thank you for the question. I really, it's perfectly fine to take questions during the presentation. And thank you for reminding me, Saskia. That's good. You keep an eye on the chat. Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Good. So let's take next slide. It's the various risks that we are seeing. So if we look at security, we're talking about security today. These slides are, to me, extremely telling, because what is it that creates, what is it that poses risk to our network? If we look at security incidents, and ENISA has reports that shows a quarter of the total incidents notified by telecom operators are due to human errors. That's the 26. It's a little more than a quarter, while system failures are the most frequent cause of incident. And the malicious actions are 4%. So, of course, 4% is 4% too much, but it's not the biggest threat. If we look at it during COVID, we as telecom operators had to really cope with major shifts in the use of our networks and surges. We saw the amount and the use of our networks exploding because of changes in traffic patterns. But my bottom line here is that I've seen most of our networks have been resilient during these crises, and they have been delivering data, video, speech, whatever to our end users. And at the same time, what we saw is that with 5G, not necessarily only during the COVID crisis, but we have seen there has been heavy geopolitical discussions and symbolism on the 5G network. So that has raised the question for all of us: is 5G safe? Can foreign powers take over our networks? And I'm not going to go into all of these political considerations. What I would like to talk about is security and security in the technology of 5G. So if you take next slide. So we put in 4 strong security things that is in the 5G network, because as I said in the beginning, we have a more sophisticated, more virtualized infrastructure, and that grows the surfaces where you can attack the network itself. But I also think that 5G is delivering much more of new technology solutions to mitigate and combat any malicious attack. And I think 5G networks are safer. Whenever I talk to people who work with standardization, they keep saying, whenever you have a new generation, you have a stronger protection of the network. So 3G, 4G is safer than 3G, 5G is safer than 4G, etc. You build in more security standards. One is a stronger encryption. This will be key for the privacy of our users. And it will not only be calls and text that will be encrypted, but also the user's identity and location will be will have stronger authentication. 5G will enable individual authentication of every single device to the network. Again, crucial to Internet of Things and smart city environments, because here IoT will be the bearing of making the smarter cities. I talked about network slicing before, and this will enable virtual separation of functions. A networks part where you can isolate critical segments of the network. So you can make, for example, to a fire station, you can make it, so you can have the slice being more secure than the one that maybe goes to my family, because it's more important that the fire station gets every call than I get every call or all the data. And I see there is a question, what's the difference between, okay, got answered. Another thing is artificial intelligence. The AI will make us see any attacks on our network faster, and also foresee many of them, because we'll use the knowledge and build and So when you have one attack, you will know how it looks. You will be able to prevent and foresee a new one because you learn from artificial intelligence, and this can really make our productivity better, but also reduce CO2 emissions for many others because of a better use of our network. And I didn't mention Open RAN, but that's because to me, Open RAN is a thing I think we need to dive into a bit because it has Open RAN stands for Open Radio Access Network, and it means that you will have open and interoperable multi-supplier architecture. So today, most of our devices only speak with its own brand. So Ericsson speaks to Ericsson, Nokia speaks to Nokia, but you don't speak cross Ericsson, Nokia, and so you need to have networks dedicated to the different vendors. But with this, we'll introduce more open interfaces and also more cloud native implementation of the radio access network. So this will mean that we can define the network better. We'll have higher supplier choice, improved flexibility, better network resilience, and more competition and innovation in the vendor ecosystem. I must say there is a big discussion on if Open RAN is more or is less secure than the normal networks. Honestly, I don't have the answer. I don't see that it should be more insecure, but or more less secure than a 5G network made by the same supplier. I think with the softwareization of the network, we put a lot of software there. It makes sense that you make it more flexible, you make it more interoperable, and so all the devices can use and talk to each other. To me, that should also be better in the sense that we can reuse a lot of network equipment instead of buying new all the time. So on the circular economy, it should also be good. Now we have the last quiz for today. So I'll look into my paper on the last one. And that is because my next point is going to be, I spoke about the technical security. Next one is going to be on the perception and information about misinformation and disinformation. So now I'd like to ask you, what's the percentage of Europeans who think that 5G has nothing to do with COVID-19? It's interesting. Interesting to see the answers, but I don't know. Can how many have replied, Lilian?
13 so far.
Yes, there is a question if the slides will be available. Yes, we can make them available. No problem. Okay. Yes, it's 75%, which is luckily a high number, but I think it's 25% too low because if we look at it, I've discussed security threats in the digital ecosystem, and this is my slide 9. And there are more and more complex tasks for all actors involved in the ecosystem. And at stake now, our daily digital life and its privacy is also being attacked somehow because of the perception and information around 5G. So for us, it's been important to look into what's happening because another threat, which is to me also a security, not necessarily cybersecurity, but it's happening in cyberspace, and that is misinformation and disinformation. And just very quickly, I'd like to explain the difference between the two. The misinformation, that refers to the spread of false information, but its intent is not to mislead anyone. It's not meant to have any consequences, but it spreads easily online. It can happen because one remembers the fact the wrong way and maybe overlooking details and so on. An example is you might remember that 5G comes with download speeds of more than 1 gigabyte per second. And when you then go back, you'll report to your colleagues and use terabit instead of gigabit. Then you would be spreading misinformation, but not without having any intent of any bad consequences. But disinformation refers to the spread of false information. So it's, but it's as well as misinformation, but you knowingly spread the misinformation because you want to create harm. And much of it is centralized and spread by a mix of bots, thought leaders, until it reaches the mass population, and then it spreads and flows naturally through the social media, etc. So what should be a good antidote to both misinformation but also disinformation, that is the malicious spread of misinformation? Well, we should all check our sources before spreading any content. For me, why is misinformation and disinformation important? Well, it is because we've seen election results being screwed because of manipulation, and their consequences cannot be fixed retroactively. So if you have an election that goes wrong because of disinformation, you cannot fix it afterwards. It's happened. Also, if we look at vaccine rollout across member states, there we find out the hard way that some disinformation are put into our healthcare system, and it puts extreme pressure on our healthcare system because the consequences are people need to go to the hospital. And if I look at as us as telcos, what is disinformation doing to us? Well, we've all been connected. We've all been really depending on our digital networks throughout the pandemic. And while we were struggling to keep every network up and running for all, there was a target of 5G conspiracy theories that was heavily fueled by disinformation, and it got real. So we actually saw episodes of attacks of violence against some of our telecom workers that were happening while they were doing their job. So they were attacked. And in 13 countries, we had close to 300 telecom antennas that has been set on fire due to fears that 5G spread COVID-19, or that 5G weakens your immune system. So many of those 5G antennas were in fact 4G antennas. So it's double up on silly and of no use. So, and some were even keeping patients in hospitals disconnected because they set fire to a mast or a tower near a hospital or a school. So the consequences have been quite big. And we have also seen that setting telecom antennas on fire was so cool that it even became a challenge on TikTok. So you could set fire to an antenna and challenge your friends to do it. And of course, you film it. But this is also stupid because, of course, the police can get access to all of this and easily find the ones doing it. We also saw that WHO had to put banners to debunk the myth of COVID and 5G and say it's safe and it's actually has no impact on environment or anything else. So we think it's important whenever we do things that we try to stay factual based on science and not to go into spreading first misinformation, but disinformation is malicious very much. Yeah. And then I just want to say, in order to stop all of this misinformation, what we have done as ETNO together with our sister organization GSMA, we have prepared a handout. We have prepared a 5G guide that gathers information on the use, because I think it's most important to show the use. Like, it's important to understand what is 5G in technology and security sense, where the risk, where the soft spots. You also need to understand the use of 5G to understand why is it important for me as a citizen or as a city for all. And that guide is available in 4 European languages, and it will be released in more languages soon. So you see the numbers here, and I think if you look, 19% are not sure that it has nothing to do with COVID-19 5G. You see 6% thinks it's false. It's actually 6% thinking that 5G has something to do with COVID-19. That is, to me, a way too high number. And also, if you look at the negative impact on the environment and the harming of the bees and privacy. So I'm concerned of course, arsons of masts, but I'm also concerned about when they attack our employees. And we have unfortunately seen workers being attacked while they were doing this. So that's another part of security that I think is interesting too. So I'll stop here, and I see Gabriel put the link to the guide in the chat, the 5G users guide. Please look at it because it has some very nice examples and very nice explanations. But now I'll pause here and see if there are any questions or comments. And even if you think I'm spreading misinformation, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Lise. I'm not sure if, I think there are not questions in the chat right now.
Yes, there is one from Sarah.
Ah, yeah, sorry, Sarah, would you like to come forward and ask your question to Lise directly?
Hi, yes. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm in public space, but my question is, how would you respond to people who believe that 5G can contribute to cancer and other health problems due to its radio frequency? But I see that Gabriel answered, but if I can have your opinion on this also.
Yeah, no, but listen, there is a lot of fear around the radiation coming from masts and telephones. And of course, it's something that people fear and they don't understand radio waves. And I would say what we use is 50% or 50 times lower than what is advised. So we go 50 times lower than the level that is advised to be the safety level for humans. I would also say that if you look at what causes cancer, it's even worse eating a beef than having a phone call. So the way people live, many of the things they do are much, much more dangerous than doing a phone call. But again, of course, if you pile it up, you would say, well, if I remove the phone call, will I then minimize my risk? No, because I think there is first and foremost no risk, and then it is it is everywhere. Radiation comes from everywhere. I don't know if that answers the question,
Yes.
but I'm just
Yes.
I think it's sorry.
Actually, I recently learned that even flight attendants, they are always exposed to radiation while working. So I can understand your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Lise. I was surprised by the percentage of Europeans who think that the rollout of 5G is important. I was surprised in a good way. I actually thought that that percentage would have been lower. That was thinking of all the things that you've mentioned, like the burning of the towers and the attacks that I've seen in the news. I thought that that percentage would be lower. But then, of course, having a look at the latest slide with all the different points, like how whether it has something to do with COVID-19, how it affects the environment, the bees, I don't remember the last one. Where do you think? I mean, I guess my question is very wide, but where do you think this come from? Like, how can people relate bees and 5G, and they do not make the connection? I mean, I know that there's no connection, but why that didn't happen that much with 4G, for
Honestly,
example?
where the information come from? I think we have no evidence of where it comes from, but we know that there are different states who are spreading disinformation in order to destabilize countries. And the way of actually helping a country that might not be as advanced digitally is to spread this information that what they're doing in the neighbor state is totally creating risks for their citizens, etc., or spreading COVID-19. By doing this, you delay the rollout of 5G, and we see it being delayed in some cities have even paused their rollout of 5G because they were afraid that not the scientific evidence, but the perception by their citizens. A country like Switzerland has right now difficulties of rolling out 5G because of this. And we have to look at science that are saying this is a safe level. If you have this level, it will not harm anyone. And the kind of ironic thing is with 5G, the radiation is less per antenna than with 4G, because you put up more antennas that has less radiation. Plus, the way 5G works is it kind of turns on and off, where today a beam is just a beam. Or not a beam, a mast has a circle where it asks for connectivity, it asks for which phone is in this area. 5G will be a beam that will actually ping you when you need it. So when you are asking for, now I need to download a video, it will actually give you that access. So it's a smart network that is not going to be online all the time, because, and you will not feel the difference because it's so fast. So there is a big difference here. But it's again, if you if you look at it, it's very difficult to explain because, yeah, we even have people who believe the Earth is still flat, right? So I'm a bit pessimistic about the last 6% we saw that believed it was false. I think the I don't know percentage we can work with, but you'll always have some who are doubting. And these doubters are fed by I think some campaigns from all over the world. And I must say, just one last thing on the vaccine. If you saw the also attack against the Microsoft Bill Gates, saying he wanted to to actually control all humans with the vaccines, it's like, come on, guys, it's
Yeah, yeah. There's another question. I think, Sophia, is that you?
Yes, it's me. Yeah, I wanted to ask a question because you explained before that with 5G we are able to reuse all technological equipment that is good for circular economy, and I would like you to explain maybe a little bit more how does it work, and whether the technological companies that produce technological equipment agree with it, because like maybe some weeks ago the unique charger has been adopted in the EU, I think, and that was a huge advancement, let's say. And so how is this possible?
yeah. And it's a very good question. What we are looking into is not an easy one. Open RAN, Open Radio Access Network, needs a lot of standards that are not defined yet. So all over the world, different telcos and also vendors like Ericsson and Nokia and others are looking into how to do it. Not all vendors are happy for it, and of course it's changing their market and it's changing the way they should sell their equipment. But I believe many right now will be in need of creating material that can be reused. So circular economy is there to stay. I don't think we'll go away from this. But what I think with Open RAN is you can, by not needing to buy the same equipment, you can combine the equipment you have already. So instead of going out and say, I need to upgrade my network, so I need to buy more equipment, you now can say, I need to upgrade my network. I can work with my software on upgrading it and then reuse the equipment. It's not as black and white. I'm simplifying it. And if I had a vendor here, they would say it's not as easy. But I think the future lies in that you put software in your network, and by putting software in your network, like I have my phone, it's upgraded on, and I upgraded it, you can upgrade the network too. Today, it's not as easy for the networks, but it will be in the future to upgrade the network overnight and run a change. And that will mean that we don't need to buy as much equipment and we can reuse it. So that's the circular economy part of it. It's more that we reuse it to different functionalities. The true circular economy is you buy a piece of equipment, you scrap it after 5, 10, 15 years, then you dismantle it and you reuse the parts. That might also be something that we need to do, but that's just also heavy on the energy you need to use to dismantle it. So all of these parts are not easy to deal with. Everything has a cost. And that's also what people are saying about Open RAN, that they say it will use more energy because you cannot optimize your network as easily when it's between different vendors, because they optimize their own equipment to talk to each other. But I hope that in the future, with the software, you can actually create a standard, so it doesn't need to be Nokia or Ericsson, but you can use all of it in a big pile. Again, if there's any vendors here, they'll tell me it's impossible. And I don't know if it's possible, but I know people are looking into innovating in this way. And I've learned that nothing is impossible. So, okay. Yeah. Any other? Something I heard about lately is the theory of the digital dark age. I have not heard about the digital dark age, but yeah. Maybe, Georgia, can you elaborate a bit on that? I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Cool. It's just something that I came across in my studies, and one of my colleagues in the security team mentioned it's to do with the fact that technology is rapidly advancing, that there will be data that could end up being lost if it becomes obsolete in its storage. So I just think, is this something that maybe could be being forgotten about when it comes to trying to advance technology and trying to make things faster and better? Is it something that you've thought about or come across, or it's just an interesting sort of thing to think about, that it could be forgotten? There could be data left out there that we can't access at some point because things have moved so quickly.
Well, it's happening. It's happening as we speak. You might remember the video tapes is a very good example. You need a certain device to actually show these old video tapes. And as they are disappearing, you cannot see the videos anymore. So there will be technologies where you will not be able to access films, music, whatever information, but I don't know. It's always been like this. I've seen back from the old days where books were written on only on paper and not anything that would be digital. When they burned, they were lost, and so we do see a lack of information all the time. But yeah. I think it's an interesting one, but I also think we have put a lot of faith in data and technology and made data more important than before. Before, when things were lost, they were lost, and you just moved on. But now we know that we could save a lot of data in the cloud or wherever we want to save it, and so it becomes extremely important. But I don't know if that's a theory of the digital dark age, Georgia, but I think it's a super interesting dilemma.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So maybe Lisa, I have a question, because it kind of strikes me that no sooner had 5G come onto the scene and people started talking about 6G.
Yeah.
It's certainly something I hear about a lot at conferences and meetings and so on. And I just wonder, as ETNO, to what extent are you preparing for 6G while at the same time obviously focusing on the implementation and indeed acceptability of 5G?
Yeah.
How do you strike that balance?
How to strike it is that right now our members are looking at 5G only. Of course, they might have research departments that are looking into 6G because you need to do that. But as we don't even have all the standards in place on 5G, I think we just need to make sure that we don't do anything with in relation to 5G that will make life more difficult with 6G. And as I understand, 6G is actually you put in a lot of monitoring into the network itself, so it becomes even more intelligent than the 5G. And by this, I think whatever we do on cybersecurity is extremely important. So we don't deal with it. When I do any speeches, I've not spoken about 6G at all. What I see is our members are just, trying to monetize for 4G, but they have to, of course, implement 5G because it's there and you need to be there. So 6G is something that no one is really working hard on yet. But last year we had a scientist coming from Finland talking about 6G, and she told us about all the wonders of 6G, and it looks really interesting, but we need to see where 5G brings us before we open the door to 6G.
Yeah, of course, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I'm not sure if there are any other questions from participants. Perhaps I have a last question. It's a bit general, but so Lise, you've mentioned all the benefits of 5G, which I have to say is very, very, very well illustrated, because I think we need to see more. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I think that when we see 5G in public, in social media or the public sphere, we tend to have more information on the big picture and less information of the actual benefits to our daily life. All those examples that you mentioned, like the ambulance for the mammography pictures, the ambulance for the picture itself, so doctors kind of start working on it before. All the benefits for your house, artificial intelligence gadgets, all those things. Well, that's one point. I think that we should see that more often than we do, because at least me personally, I haven't seen that much of that. Like, I've seen a lot of news about 5G, but not that many descriptive news about what is it that we can read, that how is it going to affect me as a citizen, as a person. So I guess that's just a comment. The question is, you mentioned all these benefits, but do you think there are any disadvantages or any, I don't know, any negative thing about 5G that is not related to, like, how to secure the system? And
yeah, well, I think there is, it's a plus and a minus, because every time you upgrade your network, you need more equipment. That is hard on the environment because we need to build more equipment. It's extremely expensive. Is it really necessary? I think it's necessary, because I think 5G will be really an inflicting a point where we'll change the way we live. But again, back to the use of the equipment, there's just so much that needs to be scrapped and just thrown away. And that's, again, it's the never-ending better and better, and you use the consummation of things. So for me, it's more, if we want to have a sustainable economy, we need to think into networks that can evolve on equipment that doesn't need to be changed every time. But we also need to make sure that we have someone who invent new and faster networks, and they need money to do this. So I don't have the silver bullet for all of this, but and just to add to this, but while it might be hard on the environment that we need to buy a lot of new equipment, the new equipment is more energy efficient. So it's actually using less energy. So on that side, it's better. But again, we need to find a way how to reuse the old equipment or dismantle it and melt it and make something different with it. And I think this is a task we as telcos need to do together with the vendors, together with the different member states, because we all have a stake in this. And we know digital is here to stay. We're not gonna pull back and make it less efficient. We're not gonna go back to sending letters and not be connected. That's not going to happen. But I think it's super important we find a way to build our networks, to use our networks, so it's not harming the environment. And just to say on this, it's easy to use green energy, renewable energy. I see many of our members are doing it, but I still think the equipment, also on the phones. How many of you have more than 2 or 3 phones in a drawer at home, never to be used again? And it's a piece of electronic equipment that is harming the environment. So we need to find a solution for this. So that's the downside, but that's
Great, thank you.
Saskia with the provocative question at the end there.
yeah, no, but
Just-
it's fine.
It's good and very interesting answer. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Well, yes, I wanted to end the questions with a spicy question,
Yeah.
so to speak. I think that if there are not any more questions from the participants, and I'm not sure if you have anything to add to close
Maybe if there are 5 minutes, still, I would like to ask another question.
Sure.
Well, at the beginning, of course, you talk about all these innovations, and but I was also thinking that, like, would it be possible for everyone to access this innovation? Because I mean, in Europe, especially Southern Europe, there is a big digital divide. And not to talk about developing countries, underdeveloping countries. So wouldn't we risk that, like with 5G, we create an even bigger divide, let's say? Is this a possibility? I don't know.
There's always a possibility. There's always a risk of that not always all countries will be upgraded. But what I've seen and what you've seen in the southern countries, not necessarily in Europe, but Africa, they never got into the fixed network. They just jumped into the mobile networks. And that's due to many reasons, because masts are easier to deploy and set up and etc. So what we saw there is that they jumped into the mobile revolution instead of the fixed networks. I think 5G is because it needs more masts and more equipment, and there is a shorter coverage between each mast. It of course risks to broaden the digital divide. But I also believe that because of the environmental uses of 5G, of the economic benefits, of the health benefits, you can actually accomplish much more. And I see many countries are prioritizing rolling out 5G because of this. So.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lise. Thank you very much for your presentation. I think you covered so many aspects of 5G. I personally learned a lot. And so I'm very glad that we did this. I see some thank yous in the chat from Scotland. So I think if no one else has any question, I think we can close it here. Thank you very much again for your presentation. Thank you everyone for participating. If you have any questions, you can email us at hello@womenforcyber.eu, and you can of course follow us on social media, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and Instagram. You can also stay up to date with all the our activities and perhaps future masterclasses. And I believe that as Lise mentioned before, or someone from your team mentioned in the chat, the slides will be available. I think you can contact either the email that was created in the chat, or you can contact us, and we will also send you the slides, or whatever is it that you prefer.
I think we send them to you, and then you send.
Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah.
Great.
So yeah, please, if you would like to have the slides, or if you have any questions, send us an email, and we will send you the slides.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lise.
And enjoy your weekend all. That was a good way to end a Friday.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Many thanks.
Thank you. Bye.